Hey everybody, this is a Swamp Cleaner here, back with another video for you. Today we're going to be talking about something a little more serious, and we're going to be talking about critical race theory, or wokeness, as you would say. And it's been seeping into our culture recently, especially in the last couple of years. You'll be seeing it's getting into our educational system. The military has now recently been getting woke. It's been getting into the Hollywood, and it's also in politics. It's getting everywhere. And we need to talk about the problem that is critical race theory and why, uh, if we don't deal with it, it's going to become embedded and change our culture and society for the worse, because that is its main goal. And that's one of the reasons why we need to rethink and reshape the argument surrounding critical race theory. And one of the first steps of doing that is by ending the use of the term critical race theory. It's it's the reasons behind that is because one reason is if you're using the terminology of the left, you are arguing on their turf. You have to work with their terms, and then they can use semantics to sidestep, ignore your arguments, and just denounce you and ignore you, and then they can move on with what they're doing. And it's quite frustrating when that happens. So when you use the term critical race theory and you get to the argument, well, they're teaching critical race theory perhaps in schools, the left will say, well, no, they're not actually pulling out the authors and teaching, critical race 101 about how this and that is the oppression and the oppressed is based on the color of your skin, or how dark you are or how light you are. You got to pull out that whole Family Guy color card and see where you land. But they'll sidestep your argument by saying, no, nobody's being taught these things in school. So instead of using critical race theory, because and I've been and Tim Pool touches on this because it's quite subversive. It's being backdoored into everything. It's this ahistorical revisionist crap that is being used as the cudgel to reshape society to a more socialistic, communistic one. And they're using the vehicle of racism because the left is full of racists. The left sees everything through the lens of race, so they're using the vehicle of racism to push this ideology forward. And it's quite pervasive. So instead of using the term critical race theory, it's just say wokeness, just say racism if you want to be general about it, because they're using the vehicle of race to push this through. They're saying black people are constantly oppressed and will be oppressed based on the colors of skin if we don't deconstruct this whiteness and this culture of whiteness that we have, that white people benefit from on a day-to-day basis, and also people of color who adhere to the scripture of whiteness, so they just are race traitors or something. So yeah, so the left are a bunch of racists, and it's ahistorical crap because instead of teaching you history, they tell you why this was racist, or like why an event in history was racist, without giving you the context of why that event happened, how it happened, and who the players were. And they get away with this because most people didn't pay attention in school. Well, most of the millennial people who are quarterbacking this and getting it into the schools and getting the Gen Zers and the Zoomers and the younger ones to start believing in this stuff. The millennials themselves never paid attention in history class, and or even said, history's boring, it's not important. Well, if you don't learn your history, you're doomed to repeat it, okay? So this revisionism is going to, if it's not stunted and not stopped, this ahistorical stuff, it's going to, in a generation, a generation or two, will actually become concrete in the education system, and critical race theory will be taught like critical race 101. You'll start off from grade kindergarten, grade 1, 2, 3, 4, just like you're taking English right now. what's happening is it's being applied to all the facets of the curriculum. If you want to learn about science, you have to understand how science is racist because the majority of all scientific discoveries in the last, what is it, 500 years or so, like 90+% have come from Europe and stuff like that. If you want to learn about math, you have to learn about why 2 plus 2 equals 5 because it's all subjective, and but then they want to forget that math was learned separately around the world by in the Far East by the Chinese and the Japanese and all the other disseminations. It was learned in the Middle East by the Arabs, and then also in Europe. Math was universal. It was literal at some points, just one stone, give me another stone, I've got more than you have. And then it's universal. I mean, let's say you want to learn about English. Well, you got to learn why English is racist because of Shakespeare. I've heard like it's getting that bad. So they backdoor this ideology into what everybody's learning, so they're not actually learning anything. They're just being scolded, they're being ridiculed, they're being told to feel guilty, to feel shame because they're using that race aspect. And it's all because I think they want to tear at the fabric at the seams of society, like BLM say, since they are avowed Marxists and they love this critical race theory stuff, or this racist ahistorical stuff, because they can paint the history as they want. They can use that and say, oh yeah, slavery, 1619, slavery built America. No, slavery was ended before the Industrial Revolution really got going. The Empire State Building, all these other buildings, skyscrapers, communities, were not built by slaves. They were built by freed people. I don't know what you're saying. Like, and the VAT, and actually the large sizable contingent of the minority African American population came into America after slavery ended. Like when, especially once the immigration policies were changed in the 60s, and a lot of them started coming from third world countries, a huge increase in the African American population. And that's 100 years after slavery was over. So I don't know this whole thing about slaves built America, but that's what I'm saying. Just like that, they use it as the cudgel to beat people into submission, and it's just going to get worse and worse unless we push back. And we have to be more specific about what it is. They don't teach you context specifics. They teach you vague thoughts and feelings and generalities, and because that's what it is, it's a theory. That's all it is, but they apply it as if it's a matter of fact. So that's why we need to be a little bit more thoughtful in our arguments when it comes to tackling what this issue is, because it's massive. There's so many like other issues like that can pop up because I love history. I enjoy reading up on history, and there's some things that I'm still learning about history, but I take my time to look at it objectively and hear about who the players were, what actually literally happened, like physically took place, as well as it could be recorded. Not about how some the subjective understandings about somebody who was writing about it 30 years after the fact or something like that. Like, slaves were not just a European thing. Like, slavery wasn't just a European thing. The largest slave trade in the world was actually the Arab slave trade, where millions of European people were put into slavery. White people. I mean, America was not on the cutting edge of slavery. I mean, the Western world ended slavery. Slavery is still happening right now in the world, but it's not happening in the West. It's happening in other places that I don't want to mention because I don't want to get in trouble here on YouTube. So, I mean, that's It's so annoying. Like, colonialism wasn't just a European thing. African countries colonized each other all the time. Look at the Chinese empires, the dynasties. What did they do? What about Genghis Khan? All these things happened, but they know they just want to. They want to focus on one aspect because they want to tear at the fabric of the Western society by driving in race because they know that that's something that's in vogue right now. Race is in vogue again. Race is the big issue again. Where it seems like we've been slipping backwards, especially since the internet came about. Uh, we've been slipping backwards towards these these outdated ideologies, such as socialism and fascism, and I think that's because these uh, fascists and these socialists who've been in the education systems trying to teach people before internet came around, they couldn't spread their lies faster than the truth could get around because the truth has been walking around for a while talking about how communism and socialism was bad. And enough people were alive enough to and fresh in their minds to remember all the bad stuff that happened. But now, since the advent of the internet, they can spread misinformation and take things out of context and rebrand stuff, re-envision things, and get it churning and get a lot of people looking at it all at once. So you now get a lot of brain dead people thinking they know everything that they need to know about what happened in the world, but it's a complete skewed version of reality. And that's what you get. That's critical race theory. It's this ahistorical revisionist this crap that just has this engine, this vehicle of racism that is pushing everything forward. So we just need to look at these people as what they are. They're a bunch of racists, and they hate the society that they're living in. They want to change it into something else. That's what I got. That's what I got for you today. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and I will talk to you guys later.